Hello, my mathematicians. This is Miss Foster with an introduction to multiplication. We're going to go over the really big ideas that are important to really understand, and we're going to look at some different vocabulary and play around with what we already know. The first thing to know about multiplication is that it has been called in the past repeated addition, where you're adding the same number over and over and over again. Because of that, in multiplications, we're making groups of things, and all of those groups are equal. Over here, I have some groups of hearts, and I hope that you can see that each group has 3 hearts in it. That makes them equal to each other. Now, if I were doing this as repeated addition, I could say 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 3 is 12. Whoa, I'm going to try that again. 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 3 is 9 plus 3 is 12. But in multiplication, we do it a little bit differently. We first of all think about the number of groups we have. So currently I have 4 groups. Then we think of the number per group. And in this case, I have 3. So it's like I'm getting to have 3 hearts 4 times. And that means, that's why we use the word times with multiplication. Now then we of course have the total. And the total would be the answer to a multiplication problem, which we also call the product. So the total of 4 times 3 happens to be 12. Now to figure that out, we're going to be drawing a lot of pictures. So plan on seeing, as we go through this lesson today, different ways to model multiplication using what we call arrays, and a different way that's really useful for big numbers called an area model. But also pay attention, you will see related facts. Because multiplication is repeated addition, be on the lookout for where you can use addition to help you solve multiplication problems. But also, the opposite of multiplication is our good friend division. And so we'll be looking for how division information is related to multiplication. So let's go on and try one. So here we have some kids who are students of a very nice person named Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter has 14 markers. She divides them equally among 7 children. How many markers does each child get? So here we have a number of groups. Now I could say that I'm putting the markers into groups of 2. Or I could say that each child is their own group. 7. Both 2 and 7 are what in multiplication we call factors. And the nice thing about multiplication is it's a little bit like addition also in that it doesn't matter what order you put the factors in. I could multiply 2 times 7, and I could multiply 7 times 2. And when I do that, I'm going to get a product, which is the total, the whole thing in a multiplication situation. So here we have 2 times 7. Well, let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I have 7 fingers up, 5 on this hand plus 2 over here. And I counted by 2s 7 times. So that gets me up to 14. Also, that means that 7 times 2 is 14. And here's another place where you could use a relationship between multiplication and addition. Do you already know what 7 plus 7 is? Well, 7 plus 7 is equal to 7 times 2 because you're taking 7 2 times. And so we can use that relationship with addition to figure out multiplication. It doesn't matter what order you put the factors in. Let's try another one together. There are 3 children. Here's child 1, child 2, and child 3. The teacher gives each child 6 seashells, and you can see they've already arranged them in those equal groups for you. There's 6, and there is 6. How many seashells does the teacher give out? Well, first of all, what are our factors? One of our factors is 3. So we can do 3 times the next factor, which is 6. Each of the 3 children gets 6 seashells. 3 times 6 will hopefully get me to my product. But I'm going to talk for a moment here about array models because the screen is already doing it for us. An array model is when we line things up. So you can see that I have rows going this way, and I also have columns going this way in kind of a grid pattern. That's called an array, and it's a great way to organize multiplication. It's also really handy if you just don't know 3 times 6 and you need to draw a picture. We're going to use a kind of simple picture. Now, if I look at this array model, and I'm going to get real messy on the screen here, right here I have one row, and it has 3 plus 3 plus 3. Well, I already know 3 plus 3 is 6, and if I add another 3 to that, that's 9. So this is a row of 9, and this is a row of 9. I could think about that as 2 times 9 with this particular array model that they made for you. I know that 9 plus 9 is 18. So I know that 2 times 9 is 18, but I wasn't trying to do 2 times 9. I was trying to do 3 times 6. So let me make a quick array model for that. I would have to have them in rows. So there is a row of 3 x's. And now I'm going to use my fabulous technology. And 1, 2, whoops, they're going off the screen. Come over here. Okay, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now I have 3 groups of 3, or 6 groups of 3 x's. And because I used my fancy control here on my smartboard, I'm able to just line them right up to you. So you can see that this array goes in columns up and down and rows. Then we can start using our related math facts. For example, I already showed you, oh, here I have a row of 6. 2 rows of 6. I know that 6 plus 6 is 12. And then 12 plus 6 would get me to my product of 18. So I could use a related addition fact. Let's go try another one. Oh, Mr. Wallace, he gives 7 books to each of his 2 sons. How many books does he give to his sons? Well, my factors here are 7 and 2. Looks like we're going to be doing 7 times 2 again. And this time, however, to get to the product, we are going to show you an area model. So area is actually a word that describes the measurement of completely flat surfaces. Like the screen that you are watching me on right now is a completely 2-dimensional flat surface. And we can show an area model by just drawing a rectangle. And my rectangle that I just drew is not perfect, and yours doesn't have to be either. We can pretend. Now, I'm going to put a 2 on the shorter side because that is my smaller factor. I'm going to put the 7 on the longer side and try to imagine this being an array model with me. I have 2 rows, and each row is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is another way I can just do it with a rectangle. And I can say, 7 times 2. Now, I hope that you noticed that when we did the array model, we got these little squares or rectangles. This is how we measure 2-dimensional space, with what we call square units. And if I were getting this exactly right, because I was always able to draw things perfectly, each one of these would be a square or a unit. So the one way that we would do that is we would say we have units, and then we would put a 2 up in the air. And the 2 refers to the 2 dimensions. It has the side-to-side dimension of those rows of 7 and the vertical up and down dimension of those stacks of 2. All right, so we've got a nice model there. 7 times 2 reminds me of 7 plus 7, and we know that's 14. Let's try just one more before we run out of time. Melanie has 3 cups. She puts 5 marbles in each cup. How many marbles are the cups? All right, my factors here are 3, that's the number of groups, and 5, because that's the number in each group, or the number per group, as we sometimes like to say. Now, to get to my product, to help me out, I'm going to go ahead and draw an area model of this. So I'm going to start with my rectangle, and I'm going to put 3, which is my smaller factor, on the smaller side. I'm going to put 5 on the longer side there. Then I'm going to start thinking, what do I know here? And I bet you might be thinking of something. You know how to count by 5s. I know a lot of you have been counting by 5s for years. So if I count by 5 3 times, I should get 5 times 3. That's a pattern. Okay, 5, 10, 15. Aha. So using that pattern can get me to my product of 15. Now it's time to try for yourself. So in the packet that I sent home, there are some practice pages, and pages 1 through 3 will give you practice looking at factors and products, number of groups, number per groups, the total. At the bottom of your PDF is an answer key. When you finish a page, please grade it, because I want you to catch your mistakes right away. I bet when you do, you'll say, oh, I see what I did wrong. And that's when your brain is going off like firecrackers. I love firecrackers. So make sure that you grade your work. If you get stuck, your adults would love to help you with this, but you can watch this video again because I love playing math with you. Thanks for playing math with me, everybody. Welcome to multiplication. Bye-bye for now.